So welcome everyone to the next edition of Behind the Bench, our National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada webinar series, and we're thrilled to have on today Ken Cancellara. So Ken has a pretty amazing background, not just in soccer, but in soccer and in the legal profession, and also in the entertainment industry. So I'll leave it to to John and Ken maybe to speak more of that, but we're certainly happy to have him on. And of course, our executive director, John DeBenedictis, who will be chatting with Ken today. We've got 1 hour. I can see already some people have logged in, so we'll give just a little bit more time for more attendees to log in. And I'll encourage everybody, if you're interested, if you have any questions for Ken or for John, please feel free to type them in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. And of course, we will speak just a little bit more at the end about how you can access this recording and all the other recordings from the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada if you're interested. So with that introduction out of the way, we'll go ahead and get things started with John DeBenedictis and Ken Cancellara.
Well, thanks, Richard. Appreciate you having me on here. Usually, the host of this is either Valerio Rocca, yourself, Richard, or Tony LaFerrara. They're usually the ones that do the hosting. But since none of them have watched the movie that we're going to be talking about today, and I have, so I guess I have the honors of doing that. So I'd like to welcome Ken Cancellara. Ken, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
So hopefully by the end of this, we'll get the others to want to watch. That's based on your book. But before we go into too much details, welcoming Ken, who's a soccer promoter. He's a former player, he's a lawyer, very successful businessman, and an author as well. And now he's become a movie executive producer. Because one of the books that he wrote has become a film called From the Vine, which, as I said to you, I thoroughly enjoyed watching. And Ken, give us a little bit of background on your history, soccer, and otherwise a little bit of a bio. Get us started.
So this is all about making me feel older than I am, is it?
Well, we're young at heart.
I graduated from the University of Toronto Law School in 1972. And started my career with the Department of Justice as a lawyer, as a prosecutor. Was there for about 3 years, and then with some friends, I began my own private law firm. And then in 1981, we had grown from 3 individuals to 9 in a matter of a couple of years. And we were on a growth mode, but we were approached by my old mentor and teacher at law school, David Kilgore, now deceased, who invited me to consider joining his law firm. Make a long story short, we joined Castles Brock and Blackwell. That was then one of the biggest and most prestigious law firms in Canada, and continued to be so. And from then on, I continued, had the good fortune of having as partners some of the greatest judicial minds in Canada, Joe O'Brien, Eric Murray, and others, Pierre Genet, who became legends in law. And I did nothing but suck up as much as I could from these gentlemen, including the cigar smoke from Eric Murray, who insisted on closing his office door and smoking these huge cigars while he was teaching me everything I needed to know. Then in 1988-89, I became managing partner of the law firm. By then, the law firm had grown to over 200 lawyers. And a short while later, I became chairman and managing partner of the firm. By then, we had grown to about 275 lawyers. And I had 80 lawyers in my own department, which I chaired, which was the business litigation department. And there I continued until one of my biggest clients, which happened to be Eugene Melnick, who now owns the Ottawa Senators, as you know, became my biggest client. And it started a little company called Trimel. Trimel, really three Melnicks, Trimel. And it was really a small little pharma company. You can't even call it a pharma company. He actually did literature for medical offices. You know, when you go to your doctor, he closes the door, you see at the back of the door a picture of the esophagus or the human body. Well, that's what he did. He then sold that to Reuters, and I was about to give him his check for the sale, which was like $11 million. In those days was a lot of money. Still is, but then a lot of money. And I was prepared to give him that check, and he said to me, "No, Ken, put this in your trust account. You and I are going to start up a pharmaceutical company." His father had been a doctor. And that's how it all started. And Trimel became my biggest client, the firm's biggest client. But there was pending litigation that had to be resolved before the pharmaceutical company could start. And so I went to Switzerland in 1991, 92. It was the year when the Blue Jays first won their first World Series, because I watched some of it from Zurich, Switzerland. We won a major action there, and that's how we created BioVail. Shortly after that, Eugene asked me to join the company formally. I'd been basically running a good chunk of the company, even as a lawyer, because all he had was 3 employees at the time. So I joined, and very quickly it became legend. 1992, it became BioVail. Eugene and I were able to get a pharmaceutical molecule. We took that molecule and created what became Thiazac, which became one of the biggest heart and hypertension medication in the country, and then in the world. And we put the company on the New York Stock Exchange, the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the stock just went wild. From then on, we continued to grow. And from just 4 employees, Eugene Melnick, myself, Ralph Reininghaus, and Mahmoud Khan, 4 of us, we quickly grew to 1,800 employees with 16 companies all over the world. So I spent a good chunk of my time, not with my amazing wife, Anita, but traveling all over the world, setting up subsidiaries. The company grew to enormous success. The stock had grown 1,600% with the splits. So you can imagine, you take a $2 purchase of a stock back in 1991 and multiply that 1,600 times, and you see what you get. The company was sold in 2009 to a large American pharmaceutical company, and I didn't want to continue with that. It had been 14, 15 years of intensive work, travel, and so on. And so I left. I joined a law firm again. But Anita, my wife, said to me, "Ken, you've been really traveling all over the world. Your son has grown and you've seen very little of him. What do you say you take a bit of a break? Guess what? Why don't you write a book?" So that's how it all started. Okay. So I went away and wrote a book. Wow. Later published a book, and she said, "Well, why don't you write another one?" So I wrote another one. And then, of course, things went on from there. I had the good fortune of being called by some very well-known Italian actors and producers who had read the book, which by then had been translated in Italian, and had won a literary prize in Italy. So it became known. And so they started asking to be involved in making a movie. We negotiated a long time, but these gentlemen, as great by reputation as they were, they didn't seem to me to have the feeling that was needed to do a movie on my book, which is all about sentimentality and the importance of ethics and it's very introspective. It talks about the person more than action and drama. And these producers and actors, all their lives have been in other fields of movie making. I hooked up with Sean Cisterna, who himself is the son of a Lucano from Basilicata in Italy, the same region where I was born and came here as a child. And we hit it off immediately. He seemed to understand what we needed to do with this movie, and the rest is history. He, as a director, he made the movie. We cast some of the most interesting names in movie industry. Joe Pantaliano, who I think everybody knows from The Sopranos and Matrix and The Fugitive and so on. He's been involved in 140 movies. So he was the main guy that we wanted. We got him, and then from then on it became easy because one important person attracts everybody else, and that's how it happened.
Right. Well, let me just ask you. I heard that the movie was #1 at Canadian iTunes at one point, and it's been in numerous film festivals around the world. And like I said, I watched it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just a quick synopsis. Lead character comes from Italy, small town Italy, and goes to New York, meets a Canadian woman, and moves to Toronto and does well in business, and he becomes CEO of a company, leaves the company, he wants to go back to his roots in Italy where his grandfather had a vineyard that was closed up, and all sorts of things happen down there. So my question is, the main actor, his name is not actor, the person he's acting for is called Marco Gentile, I believe, right? He's your main character. And so my question to you, Ken, is this guy Marco really you in some form?
Well, that's the most often asked question. The storyline and the story parallels very closely to my own story. A lawyer in business, successful, decides to reconnect with his youth. So that is exactly where my storyline also parallels it. So yeah, it's a romanticized version, obviously, of my own career, my own storyline. But importantly, the vineyard where the movie was shot is actually my vineyard. So I actually own that.
It's really yours. There you go.
Vineyards in the movie. One of them is mine, and you can imagine the emotions of having these tremendous actors filming a movie in your vineyard. All my recollections as a child with my grandfather are in that vineyard. He and I were as close as could be because my father immigrated to Canada when I was 4.5 years old.
Right.
And so until we joined him some 5 years later, my mom and I joined him 5 years later, it was my grandfather who actually was my putative father. He was the person who really, from whom I took my character traits. And it was in that vineyard, it was right there. And so to come back and see an actor portrays your own grandfather, exactly where your own grandfather taught you everything that you learned as a child, was very emotional. Even the kitchen that Pantaliano almost burns down at the beginning of the movie, before that was done in my own kitchen.
Wow.
So again, a lot of stuff that really connects me and my family to the movie. And for that reason alone, it was a very special situation for us to be involved in.
That's fantastic. And I also noticed that you actually had a small scene in there as a in the train. And I always remember Adam Sandler, who, you know, as an actor, it seems like in all the movies he shoots, he has a lot of his friends and family in it. Besides yourself, did you have a lot of friends or family in the movie?
John, this is, first of all, as far as my own cameo appearance, what I like to tell people, hopefully the Oscar people in Hollywood will have heard me, that was 3.7 seconds of an Oscar-worthy performance. I say 3 words, and I last 3.7 seconds, but there it is. Some of my closest friends in the book, I talk about the 3 Musketeers. I and 2 other friends, Musketeers. Those individuals, again, my closest friends as I was growing up, are in the movie. So the idea that I had was I want to immemorialize forever my friendship with these people by having them in the movie, and so that their own sons and daughters and nephews and so on would be able to feel the emotions that we felt in doing this. So yes, Michelino was there. Tony was the chap who was teaching Pantaliano how to tie up grapes. And Michelino was the individual who Joe Pantaliano, during a scene, said Michelino as he went to get his coat. And sure enough, as soon as his son, who actually lives in Toronto, saw that scene, he called me and was sobbing on the telephone, because my God, my father told me so much about your friendship with him, and to actually see him in your movie was something special. My wife also had a cameo appearance at the beginning of the movie. She was right behind Joe Pantoliano as they came to Canada. So it became a very emotional, sentimental journey for us, not only from the standpoint of doing something interesting and new, but from the standpoint of having your family and your house and your vineyard and your friends all sort of participating in this venture. So it was really special, John.
That's fantastic. We're going to come back to the movie a little bit later. I just want to switch to the more soccer side for a second. So you played youth soccer in the Toronto area. So you didn't go to New York. You ended up coming straight to Toronto. That was a little twist in that movie. So so you played your youth soccer in Toronto, but then you ended up going to U of T, University of Toronto, playing on their varsity team, which I believe won the national title.
Yes. We the final game was never forget this, against Université de Montréal in Montreal. And the night before, we went there the night before, stayed in a hotel room. We woke up the next morning and we saw a foot of snow. And, was the game going to be called off? We had no idea. We were all hyped to go. John, you know this. And Richard, you as well. You're primed for that one event and you want to get it over with. And so we wanted to play. But the referees didn't want to play because they said, look, you can't even see the lines. It's like a foot of snow. So you know what they did? They painted the lines blue to allow us to play. We won 6-0. So that was also a very, very special moment for us.
And you, what position did you play?
I played right wing.
You're in the middle.
Right wing.
Right wing, okay.
The speedster and right wing. Okay.
And so you won the national title at the time. Was it just a one-game event, or was it a tournament like they do now?
Oh no, it's you go through qualifying routes. You have to, you play in your own division. The universities here in Ontario, and then we won the Ontario title, and then you have to play, and it's like hockey. You basically go right through the ladder until you reach the final.
Okay. So, you obviously didn't go on in soccer, you went on in business, and you probably set a whole bunch of goals. So, coaches who are coaching, kids, chances are that we're not going to have an Alfonso Davies on our team. Most of the players that we coach are going to be, going on a school and a career. And, when coaches are dealing with young athletes, they're trying to help them. I know I'm coaching a U17 or grade 12 now, and a lot of the players are asking me about, playing for varsity teams. And, the first thing I say is, make sure that you go to a university that has the programs you want. And And how were the coaches that coached you at whether U of T or some of your youth coaches? How did they influence you and maybe setting goals outside of soccer?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because for the first time, when I played soccer with my friends, the Lucky Razzo, Mario Barone, and others in the TMD league here in Toronto, the coach has one goal, that is to have you win whatever you're involved in, to win the game, to win whatever. In university, I found it a little bit different. And I say that your question is interesting because these are kids who are primed to also go to school and not eliminate one versus the other. The coaches in university were all university professors. They were all volunteers. Right. I mean, you're not talking, having an external coach coming in to coach you. We're talking about, for example, to give you an example, the first year, my coach was Frank Iacobucci. Frank Iacobucci was my professor at law school. He then became dean of the law school, U of T Law School. He then became a judge in the Supreme Court of Canada, as we all know. Right. And so he teaches you, it's the same principles, whether it be to become a great student or to become a great soccer player. They teach you the same things. And when the coach is both your mentor as a professor, the academic line, and also your coach on the soccer pitch, you see how the two lines converge and they become the same. Fight hard, work hard, never give up. If you've got a goal in mind, push it until you reach it. Don't stop. It was the same thing in law school. It was for me, and it was the same thing on the soccer pitch. Just keep going. And when you've got the one coach who really commands both disciplines that you're involved in, soccer and academics, the message I found was exactly the same.
Yeah, a lot of studies show that the coach for a lot of athletes is probably the second most influential person in a player's life, next to the parents. And in cases where there's parental problems, sometimes the coach becomes the prime person that guides these young kids. So it sounds like you had a good coach certainly at the university level that helped you choose to go into law. Once you went into law, I guess you had goals, what type of law, or set these while you're playing or later as you graduate?
Well, that was the your comment is so true when you say that coaches become almost like fathers or mothers to the kids. As you grow older, it's the same thing. So I found myself confiding in my old coaches. Frank, to this day, Iacobucci is a close friend of mine. And he was certainly a good friend of mine after I graduated from law school, because I checked up with him and get his counsel on what I should do. So when it was time for me to decide whether I wanted my small firm to merge with Castles Brock, the first person I called was Frank. Frank, I've got these choices. What do you think? And you sit down. He doesn't tell you anymore because you're an adult, but you have a cup of coffee with him, and you come out of that coffee having a clearer picture of what you should be doing. So, John, it's so true that coaches these days aren't just coaches in the physical sense, that is teaching a kid how to play the game, but a coach in life. And that's why these kids gravitate towards their coach, almost like they would toward their parent, perhaps even more so than toward their parent, because they see someone who isn't a disciplinarian in the same way that the father is or the mother is. So they long for sort of advice that is meant for them without, without the stick to make sure that they do it. So it's, and I found that in my own life when it mattered most. It's to which you've got 2 or 3 ways to go, where do you go? And I went to my old coach, which also happened to be my law school professor.
Well, that is great to hear because, I think sometimes as coaches, you get frustrated or some players maybe don't go to a level on the field that you want them to. But, I think coaches need to understand that they're very influential outside of the soccer field. Of course, if a player happens to make it somewhere, and I mean, the opportunities today might be a bit better than they were when we were younger, where there wasn't much professional soccer. Now with MLS and Canadian League and whatever. But I think, most coaches have to stay positive that they're, they're working and there's more to it than just teaching the game. So I'd probably suggest that if you're a player or a parent and the coach isn't looking at helping your son or daughter out in outside of the field, that maybe that's not the right coach for you.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
So once you graduated, you also, if I hear correctly, is your favorite team in Italy Inter?
Always has been.
Has been, and so I guess they won the Serie A in 2010, and so you decided, well, why not bring them to Toronto?
Well,
play against the champions of Greece.
Yeah,
What's the story on that?
It was a little, of course, you. Because you're not an Interista, you downgrade what Inter did in 2010. It didn't just win the Scudetto, the Serie A championship. They won the triplete, as we call it.
Right.
They won the Serie A Scudetto, they won the Coppa Italia, and they won the Champions League. So they were the best team in the world in 2010. And I mean, if this is your team, what greater pleasure can there be than to be responsible for bringing your team to your adopted home, Toronto, to play before you and your friends and the Italian community. And so that's what I had decided to do. The reason we chose Panathinaikos, the champions of Greece that year, was because I was a good friend of the Greek consul here in Toronto. And he and I had met a couple of times on the Danforth, one of the Greek restaurants. And I told him what my plan was. And I said, how's Panathinaikos doing? Because and it's still the case today, it's always between Olympiacos and Panathinaikos in Greece. It's like Juventus and Inter, Juventus and Milan. It's the top teams. And that year, Panathinaikos had won the Greek championship. And so he got all excited, says, Ken, it would be a pleasure, it would be an honor, blah, 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 blah. And so at the end of the day, that's how it came out, that Inter would be facing Panathinaikos. And so we brought both teams over to Rogers Center to play that game, which I am not very happy to admit. Inter lost, but there's a story behind that as well.
They probably didn't bring all their stars.
For another day, yeah.
And so when you went to this, I don't, for some reason, I don't recall that game. I seem to know just about everything that happened in Toronto, but that one kind of went under the radar for me. But you played at this. Was it good attendance at that game? Did you get a good crowd?
We got a decent crowd. We didn't have a great crowd as we expected for the very simple reason that Inter was playing another tournament in the United States. And so the only date that I was given by Moratti, and I tried to get another date, but he just couldn't give it to me because Inter was committed at other tournaments, was the first weekend in August, which coincides, of course, with our civic holiday.
Great.
And so that killed what I was expecting, which was a full stadium. But we had a good crowd, was an enthusiastic crowd, Greek flags and Italian flags all over the place. It was a fantastic event for me, certainly, and for for the community. But what really took it over the top had nothing to do with soccer on the pitch that day. Sure, you know, I great honor to meet Zanetti at the kickoff, and Cambiaso, we became friendly with Cambiaso, and Materazzi. I mean, it was great. But what happened, John, was this. 5 minutes before the end of the first period, we were in a box, myself and some friends, my family, watching the game with the Greek consul, and we had some consuls from other consulates in Central America watching the game together. And somebody taps me at the back, and he was the son of a good friend of mine whom I played with in Silana way back as 12-year-olds, 12, 13-year-olds. And he said, there's somebody who wants to meet you, but not now, because I know you're busy. He wants to meet you at halftime. Is that okay? I said, sure. So at halftime, we went down. As you know, Rogers Center has 2 levels of boxes. There's an upper level, and then there's a lower level. So we went down the stairs to the lower level of the boxes, and we went to a door to one of the suites. He opened the door, and it was dark, pitch black, dark, totally dark. Lights were off, dark. 2 seconds later, he turns the lights on, and guess who's there? All my old friends from 30 years earlier with whom I had played soccer together. It was organized by Lucky Raso,
Okay.
who is my longest friend in this country. We met when we were 10 years old. We played together for Catanzaro. We played together for Silana. Then I made the mistake of going to law school, and he continued and had fun playing soccer on the soccer pitch. It was him. It was Mario Barone. All my old friends from going way back, some of whom I hadn't seen in 20 years or longer.
Wow.
And so the beauty of that encounter, John, was that I renewed these friendships. And now, once again, they become my best friends. So we see each other regularly, Rob Yarushi, Carmine Marcantonio, Fortunato Febraro, Lucky Raso, all
Right.
those guys from the old gang. So it was a special day that day for more than just the game on the pitch.
Right. So, and it sounds like they recruited you to the Toronto Azzurri group, and then you were involved in bringing the UA Juventus U17 team to Toronto to raise funds for a pretty worthy cause.
Yeah, my great friend Carmine Marcantonio is from Abruzzi, and one morning, as we've always done for the last few years, except we haven't been able to do it much since March of this year for obvious reasons. Even then, we snuck up a meeting or two together. We'd meet for coffee and just chat about soccer and chat about the world. One morning, we're meeting at Nino D'Aversa there on Finch Avenue. And Carmine came in and said, Ken, have you heard the news? I said, yeah, I heard the news. I read the newspaper in the morning. And what happened was that there was an avalanche in Abruzzi, which totally engulfed a hotel. And in that, everybody in the hotel died under the avalanche, with the exception of 2 young boys, 1 9, 1 10. The reason they didn't die was because they were downstairs at the lower level playing video games. That was just a fluke. So he had tears in his eyes as he told the story. And again, he's an Abruzzese. So for him, it was particularly special. So we decided we wanted to do something. So with Carmine and with Lucky, the 3 of us together, we came up with this idea. Let's see if we can do a soccer tournament so that we can raise some funds for these 2 kids. And that's how we did it. Lucky and Carmine are avid Juventini. We got to meet Roberto Bettega, who has since become a wonderful friend. I got a message from him just 2 days ago, as a matter of fact. And Lucky speaks to him frequently, as does Carmine. And so with his help, and you know, he was probably one of the top 3 or 4 Juventini of all time, Bobby Goal, as we call him. And so he's still to this day connected with Juventus. And so with his help, we set up this tournament where Juventus brought over to Toronto their under-17 squad to play against Canadian teams, Toronto FC, Woodbridge, and so on. And we thought that the funds would be used, obviously, for raise funds for these 2 young orphans. And so we decided to split the proceeds 3 ways: a portion for the Toronto Azzurri, a portion for and the other 2/3 to equally to the 2 orphans. To this day, the money for the 2 orphans is in the hands of grandfathers, which they will be able to collect. It's earning interest, which they'll be able to collect when they turn 18. So it was a very successful tournament. We raised a lot of money, and it's one of the more satisfying things that we did.
And I don't know if you know, our technical director Tony LaFerrara, I think, helped out a little bit with that, and we were able to, as a National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada, you allowed us to come and film the U17 Juventus team in a training session. And so that is actually on our website in our members only section. So if anyone wants to see the Juventus U17 team train, they do some unique warm-up activities, and then they go into their session. That's actually on our website, so all our members can get that for no cost. So
that's wonderful.
I didn't know that you're behind that, and probably one of the guys that said, "Sure, come and do it." So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure.
And, so let's go back to the movie for 1 second. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought the acting was fantastic. So Joe Pantaliano, how was it working with him? He's a pretty famous actor. I got to meet him, and
I should read some of the messages. We communicate all the time. Without exaggeration, I'll flip over a couple of messages after this discussion is over to show you exactly. This is today's. We exchanged messages today's. Right. He is the funniest, most articulate, and smart individuals you will ever want to meet. You talk about wanting to talk about life, you need to speak to Joe Pantaliano. Bright guy, phenomenal actor. The beauty of his role was that this is the first in 140 plus films that he's been involved in. This is the first role that he had as lead in a movie. All the other ones, of course, he was an important Matrix, for example, and others, important character, but never a lead. So for him, this was something new as well. Joe, I went to pick him up at the airport. Actually, before then, we had sent him the script. He loved the script, but he wanted to read the book because obviously the book would contain more details. So we sent him the book. He read the book, loved the book. He then said, I want this movie. I want to be involved in this movie. You negotiate with my agent as to what I'm going to be paid for this. But remember, don't say no. Don't let the negotiations stall. Come to me as a last resort, because this is a movie I want to do. I want to be involved in. So I went to pick him up at the airport. And he's a very eccentric guy where you see him, funny hats and cowboy boots, and really, I guess most actors are. They can afford to be.
Yeah.
So I picked him up at the airport. We had a coffee at the airport. And I drove him. We were going to drive down to meet Sean, the director, and have dinner together. So he said, oh, you have Starbucks up here as well. He was joking, of course. Mm-hmm. And so he said, let's stop for coffee. So we stopped for coffee. And he looked at me and he said, okay, we only have about half an hour, Ken. I said, Joe, no, we don't. We got like 10 minutes. We got to get down there because they're waiting for us. He says, no, they'll wait for us. He says, you've got half an hour to tell me everything I need to know about you. I've read your book. I've read the script. I'm involved in the movie. We're going to start shooting in a few weeks. Actually, it was only 2 weeks later we started shooting. But tell me everything there's to know about you. He wanted to know my whole life history, just like I've told you today. He asked probing questions. And that's the sign of a great actor, because he's not getting paid extra for that. But he wants to be the best he can be in portraying you or portraying your movie. And so having Joe involved was pure pleasure, not just because he's a great actor, but because he's a fantastic human being. So we had a great time. Once we got him, of course, then everything fell into pieces. You know, Wendy Cruz, oh, Joyce and Marco Leonardi. Yeah, oh yeah, Joe, oh my God, I want to be involved. So it became easy for us to get the supporting parts in all this.
Right, and the funny thing is, I guess Joe, although he's got the Italian background, his Italian wasn't very good. He needed a translator, from what I understand.
Yeah, he's as Joe himself says, he says, you know, I'm reading an American manja cake. You know, he says I'm American, but of course his mother was Italian, as was his father, but he came from a family that was a very disruptive family. There's a lot of crime, and he wrote a book, and so his book tells the whole story, and he's not embarrassed at all to tell the story. But he doesn't speak Italian well, but in the 2 weeks we were in Italy, he spoke my town's dialect better than he spoke the few words in Italian that he knew. Wow.
No, I really enjoyed the film. I thought he did a great job. The supporting actors, I thought all did a wonderful job. There's some great lines in there too that I don't remember them all, but I remember when the lines came out, it's just like, wow, this has got to be one of those that you're going to remember forever. Yeah. Of course, you already forgot them. That's it.
Well, that's Joe, though, because Joe has got, you know how it is with great actors, right? People with a reputation. Directors fall into two categories when you have a great star. There's the director who feels so intimidated by the actor that he will do whatever the actor wants him to do. So in fact, the actor directs the movie, not the director. That's one type of director. There's the other type of director who understands this and lets the star really become his own director, in his own way. And Sean, to his credit, because Sean is a young guy, but with a lot of experience, he's done some great movies. And so he knows how to handle people like that. And he worked magically with him in his relationship. Joe would have ideas right in the middle of the set. And he would say, stop to the camera people. He would go over to Sean and would say, Sean, what about? And Sean at times would agree with him. At times he wouldn't. He would explain why not. But Joe took an active role in this movie. He didn't just learn the script and just spewed it out as the camera rolled. He actually played a role in the production of the movie. It was a silent role as production. So I'm going to give you one example. At the beginning of the movie, as Marco is having his shareholders meeting, right at the beginning of the movie, you will hear that 2 or 3 times as Marco is in thought, because he's been asked to say something that he doesn't want to say. You hear a clap. You hear it a couple of times. And that was Joe, because Joe wanted to introduce the grandfather right at the beginning to make sure that people knew that Marco, as he was making his decision to leave the company, was doing so because his grandfather was pulling him over to his roots. That was all Joe Pantaliano's idea.
Okay.
Just to give you one example of the way Joe and Sean worked brilliantly together. It was really quite wonderful to see.
And I hear that a lot of the actors came from the actual town. They weren't even actors, from what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, the main actors, we all know who they were. You know, at the end, you see them as they're toasting. Um, so we all know who they are: Paula Brancati, Wendy Cruz, and etc. But the supporting cast of people from Macherenza, from small towns, they all had cameo appearances. It was, and I was, um, at, at one point, we wanted to put in like soccer. So we had these two kids
Yes.
with the soccer ball as a small little alleyway type of road, getting away, trying to move around Joe Pantaliano. Well, the people you see there playing cards, these are all people whom I vaguely remember from my youth. Remember, I came here as a young boy.
Yeah.
But a funny thing happens as you get older. Your short-term memory fades. Like, I can't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago. But I'll tell you what, I can tell you exactly what happened 65 years ago when I was like a baby. It's amazing how human nature is, but that's what it is. So I vaguely remember these people from way, way back. And it was wonderful to see them participate in their own way in this movie. It was quite an experience.
I mean, as I say, I really enjoyed the film. It was one of those feel-good movies. I think it's certainly with the times with COVID and that. I think this was a great movie to watch. And where could they find it?
Oh my God! We just launched it in Italy just 4 days ago, so it's now you can see it in Italy. It's got a different title, In Vino Veritas. That is, in wine you see the truth. So we wanted to change the title. It's going to be released in Australia and New Zealand next week. It was released in the US on October 6th, I should say. And it came out as number 6 in the whole of the US, including the big budget movie. So we were number 6. In Canada, you can get it on iTunes, on Rogers On Demand, on Super Channel, on Kojiko. I mean, all the digital platforms will have the movie.
That's fantastic. I think we're just about out of time, Richard. You want to? I don't know what's already been our 45 minutes. Is that what we usually have, or
we go the full hour. Yeah, we got
do we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I always thought it was 45 minutes. Oh, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So they can find the movie online on demand. I think that's where I found it, is on the Rogers. No, it wasn't Rogers because it was Bell. On demand somewhere. I think I saw it on YouTube. You could also rent it on.
It's really over. I mean, all you need to do is just you put in search from the Vine, and you can get it. You can go Facebook on Instagram, and you get it. There's all sorts of links that lead you to all the platforms that you can then use to see the movie. So it's freely available everywhere.
And your lead character, Marco, where'd that name come from? Is there Gentile? Is there you just picked that out of the blue, or?
No, that's part of when I say that it's a romanticized version of my life story. That's part of the romanticizing. You pick up names, you pick up, in the new novel that I have, which it's totally fiction. It's not at all like this movie, nor is my book, the new novel that is going to be published, the same as, it has nothing to do with me, except that I've managed to put in something about my life. It talks about a pharmaceutical company, nothing to do with the pharmaceutical company that I was involved with, but it gave me the expertise in the approval of pharmaceutical products, and how appropriate it is right now, right? That we're seeing how the vaccine is being developed. Well, yeah. All of that, long before we had, because I started writing that book, the new novel, 2 years ago. And it's about the approving of an important product, et cetera, et cetera. But all of it, with the exception of the fact that I used my own knowledge and experience in pharmaceuticals, to do that chapter or that line on the pharmaceutical companies, but all of it is fictitious. So how does it come up? It just, as you're writing it, you think of names and you scratch them out because it's either too long or too short, or it's difficult to pronounce. So you think of another name. And places. You think of places. With my two books published in the movie, it was easy. It was my hometown. So there really is an Acidenza. It really is beautiful. And I was really born there and so on. So all of that's true. But in the new novel, I talk about places and so on. Some of them are real, to give it a sense of reality. So when John reads it, he says, oh, I know that place. But so that creates reality for the story, but it's fictitious. Right. So it's an author, a novelist comes up with these things. I can't explain how it comes up. It just happens.
So you're a soccer player, you're a businessman, you're Hollywood, you're author. You're obviously very, very creative, I would say. And fictitious as well as real. It certainly shows a variety of skills that you have. Is there anything special that maybe you took at university, or a high school coach that wanted, a teacher that maybe wanted you to write books and make movies?
No, but my wife keeps telling me now that first of all, even as someone whose first language was not English, my mother language obviously was Italian. I was born there. But the highest mark I received in high school was in English. You know, go figure.
Yeah.
And so I've always liked articulation, that is, being able to explain concepts with words. I've always found that to be an easy thing for me to do. You know, some people can't put two words together. Others you can't stop from talking. I'm sort of in the middle, but I enjoy using words to describe the most difficult to describe feelings and emotions and sentiments and so on, which is why Finding Marco is a success and got a literary award for that reason, because it's all introspective. And John, that was the difficult thing that Sean had to worry about in making the movie, to convert that introspection where the character in the book talks about deep emotions and how he feels about different things. And to try to put feelings on the screen is not easy to do.
No, that's definitely not.
It's easy to convert actions. You know, people shoot something but it's difficult to convert emotions onto the screen, which is why the talking leaves. See, the leaves, as Joe Pantaliano said, when Wendy Cruz and his wife asked, "Did I hear you talking?" Joe says, "I was talking to the vines." And Wendy makes fun of him, saying, "Oh, you were talking to plants." Well, the vines are really his emotions talking to him. Yeah. So that's how Sean converted the emotions onto the screen, by not having Joe talk about it, but by having a natural thing talk to him about it. So that's why I've always enjoyed writing, because I enjoy expressing ideas in words, and I haven't lost that love of writing even at this age.
So basically, with the movie and all your businesses, you know, you're almost like a coach, aren't you? When you're running, you got people under you, and you got to get everybody working together. So since we are a coaching association, you know, what would you like to say to coaches about, you know, running an organization or running a team, and some of the you know, barriers you're going to come up with and whatnot?
You know, coaching in life, which includes everything, including and especially soccer, which is the sport that obviously is dear to our hearts. If a child has a coach who not only appreciates the child's skills, but also appreciates that that he's really teaching him soccer. He's really teaching him everything else in life: discipline, fortitude, don't give up, share the ball with your friends, making sure you don't hog, making sure that you understand that, and more importantly, perhaps than anything, if you lose, feel badly. You should feel badly because you shouldn't have lost. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. There'll be a new game tomorrow, and you'll have another chance for the next game to be able to redeem yourself. So the question of redemption, that is, you failed, but you redeem yourself next time, is actually the title of my next book, Redemption in the Mayella. The importance of redeeming yourself. A loser isn't just someone who loses in life, but someone who loses in life and doesn't want to redeem himself. But in our little ways, it doesn't have to be something huge, but if you make a mistake, that's okay. Learn from that and redeem yourself. And on the soccer pitch, it's the same thing when you really think about it. A child or a player makes a wrong move, even causes a goal, doesn't score a goal when he or his teammates should, but that's okay. Just learn from that so it doesn't happen next time. So the learning from the mistake is as important as not making the mistake in the first place, in my opinion.
Fantastic advice for all coaches. Richard?
Well, yeah, I think it was great. I mean, we are just about out of time now, and maybe I'll take this time just to thank Ken so much. It was really a pleasure just listening to that conversation, hearing all of your wisdom and your experience and your story. I think it's a really amazing, Italian Canadian success story. So really great to hear, and thank you so much for your time as well. And John, of course, thank you. Maybe just before we wrap it up, are there any last words?
I have something for you, Richard. You told me that your dad went to dental school at about the same time I was in law school at U of T. So please tell your dad that at one stage when this nonsense is over, we got to have an espresso together and talk about the good old times.
Well, yeah, that'd be great. I'll definitely let him know. Thank you.
My best wishes to him and to the two of you for as happy a Christmas as we can manage in this virus impacted world. But hopefully we'll all come out of it as stronger individuals than we were when we went into it.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, Ken. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I enjoyed your movie. I'm going to actually have to get your next book. Hopefully that'll turn into a movie. But congratulations on all you've done. It's fantastic to hear that you're also sharing it with everybody. And I'm going to, obviously, because of your store is closed now for obvious reasons. I mean, we're all closed in some way. But I'm going to do exactly as you suggested. I'm going to go online and see what you got, because I got some Christmas gifts that I have to fill soon. We're running out of time. Yeah. Awesome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. So we'll just close as we always do by thanking everyone for their attendance as well, and of course for your participation. It goes without saying, that the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada, we are a volunteer-led organization, and we do our best to provide, we're doing stuff like this every single week, really, valuable content for coaches, including webinars, interviews, question and answer sessions, debates, coaching education videos, and live clinics when we can, and as soon as we can, again, we will, plus a host of other benefits that you do get access to. All of them, you get access to all of them through membership. So I'll urge, those of you that are watching live, and anyone else who happens across this video or some of the promotions we've done, if you haven't already done so, to consider a membership in our organization. It's very easy to do. It's not very expensive. It's only $5 a month Canadian. You get access to everything, including free and discounted stuff as well. And we'll put the link to do that up in the bio for this video. But it's www.nscac.ca/join. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Yep. Bye-bye.
All right.